You're a trailblazer in this. Your company, you recently hosted a seminar for other corporations on adding Bitcoin to their balance sheets. What is the number one pitch that you made to them for why a corporation should have some of their treasury in Bitcoin?
Well, I think in the current monetary environment, cash is diluted to shareholder value. If you can't get a return risk-free in excess of 15% on your assets, you're not going to keep up with the rate of M2 monetary expansion. So the pitch in essence is convert a non-performing asset into the best performing asset. Bitcoin's been appreciating at 220% just about every year on average for the past 10 years. So there's nothing that's going to be more accretive to your shareholder value than to flip your non-performing cash into an accretive digital asset like Bitcoin.
And so the moves that you made here, Michael, over the past year, is this then a general assessment on your part and the folks who work for you that the dollar and its position right now in the world right now is going to continue down this trajectory? You're confident that that's going to be the case?
Well, I think the macroeconomic outlook is for monetary expansion in the range of 15% for the next 3, 4, 5 years. I think before March of 2020, we didn't feel that way. The money supply had been expanding at 5% for a decade. So in an expansionary monetary environment, you want scarce assets. And the scarcest asset in the world is Bitcoin. It's digital gold. It was designed and engineered to be the scarcest asset in the world.
Michael, of course, you had that Twitter conversation with Elon Musk, but when you're talking to other corporates looking to do this, are we talking of the scale of a Tesla? Everyone's now saying Apple's going to do it. Maybe they'll become an exchange, but are you seeing big companies wanting to follow your lead?
You know, we had a conference last week, and I expected a few thousand. We had 8,000 firms represented. The conversations went viral to 250,000 different people over YouTube. And my phone's been ringing off the hook. It's just, it's pretty amazing the degree of interest across the board, private companies, public companies, institutions, and the like.
So, you know, obviously, going back to that question, when Elon asked you at the end of the year, he's like, oh, are such transactions even possible? Talk to us about the mechanics of putting a lot of money into Bitcoin. How do you execute the trade? And then how do you store it and custody it in a way that sort of makes sense, whether it's, do you hold your keys? Do you trust it to a third party? How should companies think about that aspect of the challenge?
You know, there are institutional grade providers, and you either go the route of buying the Bitcoin, and you can do it with firms like Coinbase, or you go into a fund with Grayscale, or a firm like NYDIG, which does both. And generally, these are institutional grade providers. They'll do the trade, they'll acquire the asset, they'll custody it for you. Between their offering and the fact that we published a corporate playbook for Bitcoin acquisition, which will compress the multi-month process down to days, I think it's becoming substantially speedier and simpler for the typical corporation.
Yeah, we were speaking a little bit earlier with a big investor, Michael Novogratz, who basically congratulated you and called Elon Musk a genius for listening to you. While we were speaking to him, there was some news out of Miami that the mayor there is actually interested in adding Bitcoin or some type of cryptocurrency to that city's financial balance sheet. What do you think about the general idea of some of the governments themselves actually moving into this?
I think it's brilliant. State, municipal governments, they have a challenge. They've got balance sheets. They can raise capital, and if they can invest capital into an accretive asset like Bitcoin, which is appreciating dramatically against the dollar, that takes pressure off their taxpayers. It's good for everybody involved, and Francis Suarez is probably the most progressive mayor in the country right now.
Michael, the amount you've put to work, I believe it's about $3 billion or thereabouts into Bitcoin. We saw $1.5 billion done by Tesla. But when you hear of diversified play, do you think of a number? Do you think a corporate should have about 10% of its balance sheet within crypto? How do you think about it?
Well, you know, I can't imagine why anybody wouldn't want to invest at least 10% of their balance sheet in an asset which is going up in excess of 200% a year on average over the course of a decade. So I think that that's very straightforward, almost a no-brainer. I think that the more aggressive move is to convert most of your balance sheet into Bitcoin. This is part of a general trend toward digital transformation. Instead of digitally transforming your P&L, we're talking about digitally transforming your balance sheet and going from an analog asset like cash to a digital asset like Bitcoin. I think it's going to continue for the next decade because it's enormously accretive to shareholders.
And how much should companies be allocating to Dogecoin here?
Dogecoin is good fun for the industry, lots of good fun, but as a treasury reserve asset, I would steer people toward Bitcoin. It's digital gold, and it's the institutional grade safe haven asset of the 21st century.
All right, well, to build off Joe's silly question with somewhat of a serious one, do you worry at all about sort of the Dogecoins of the world, maybe, I guess, dinging maybe the credibility of Bitcoin or Ethereum or some of the other more, I guess, legitimate, quote, currencies out there?
No, I mean, I think it's really primarily for entertainment value, and hundreds and hundreds of institutions and corporations that are looking at an inflation hedge and a digital asset. They're looking at Bitcoin very seriously. No one's seriously looking at Dogecoin. Just for fun.
Michael, for fun, of course, aside, it's interesting also that Elon has the capability of buying gold when he put it into, going more diversified. It wasn't just digital gold, but also real gold via ETFs or whatever. Is there a reason why you didn't want to go gold, or have you got that optionality within the convertible bonds issuance that you did?
We went through the same exercise and studied it. Gold peaked in August at the same time we bought Bitcoin. Yeah. If we bought gold instead of Bitcoin, we would be down $2 billion. It would have been a disaster. And yes, we considered why. Here's the reason we didn't buy gold. Because Bitcoin is digital gold, and Bitcoin is a better gold than gold. So once people start thinking about what they want, which is a non-sovereign safe haven store of value, they're going to realize that Bitcoin does the job of gold better. And you're seeing all of the institutional flows move out of gold into Bitcoin. Bitcoin is, going to be $1 trillion asset. It'll move to be a $10 trillion asset. It's going to demonetize gold. And so if you believe in that sort of asset, gold will be the loser as rational investors readjust their allocation from gold to Bitcoin to do the same thing better.